here we are. Now usually when making these YouTube videos, I'd at least have a bit of a framework of what I want to follow and some value I want to provide. But to be completely honest with you, I'm kind of just winging this video because I want to be truly honest and authentic with not just myself, but also everyone kind of following on from this journey and anyone who's expecting to do an Ironman in the near future as well. Now, I actually have a mindset coach who I've been working with for the last 18 months now, so safe to say he knows me very well. And we had a session this morning where I was sharing all of my life updates and things with him. One of the things I was sharing with him and we kind of dove into a little bit was how much I'm struggling right now to keep up with the demands of everything going on, primarily being the Ironman training. So I'm currently on week 8 of this Ironman training program and things have started to get pretty tough, and for the last few days I have not really felt myself. Luckily, it is a recovery week in a plan, but to put it in perspective for you, here's what a recovery week looks like. So Tuesday is 45 minutes on the bike with interval swim, then it's a 6-mile run on Wednesday. Thursday is another swim with a 45-minute easy bike. Friday is a 45-minute tempo run. Saturday is 40 miles on a bike, and then Sunday is 8-mile run and 1.6k swim. And that's disregarding any strength work that I might want to do on top of that. So it's safe to say even a recovery week is still a pretty hectic week. But what I found from the weekend just gone is that I was obviously accumulating lots of fatigue. Saturday was a 50-mile bike ride into a 10-minute transition run, and then the Sunday was 11 miles with a 2k swim, and that just tipped me over the edge. So the last few days I've really been struggling with extreme fatigue, a bit of brain fog, and that's obviously been leaking into other areas of my life as well. So despite sleeping for 9 hours the last kind of 3 nights, I've been waking up feeling tired, I've been lacking creativity, my general mood has been a lot lower than what it normally would be. And one of the other stresses I've had, as well as the physical training for the Ironman, is keeping up with these YouTube videos and making sure that you guys as subscribers or followers of this journey are getting enough value. Now obviously I check in every day with YouTube and it's really cool to see that the subscriber count is growing, and one pressure that I have internally is to keep showing up for everyone who's subscribed and keep providing content and value for those who are interested in this journey. And it just so happens that one of the videos that's doing the best on my channel right now is coincidentally the one I put the most time in. So in my head I'm thinking, right, I need to put all this time, effort into scripting and making things go well on the videos. But actually, after speaking to my coach this morning, he recommended that I actually just open up a little bit and share the realities of how I'm feeling right now, the fact that I am struggling to keep up this training, and show that I am human and this is a reality of what you may experience if you decide to take on an Ironman when you have a toddler, a business to run, and a life that you want to live. So rather than just glossing over the fact that Ironman training is hard and making everyone think that it's easy and I'm dealing with all the intensity absolutely fine and it's all perfectly manageable around my life, I just wanted to be honest and say, look, if you're thinking of doing an endurance event, it is hard. You do have to prioritize your time. You do have to prioritize all of the things around training, and you especially have to prioritize honoring how you feel during the preparation and making smart decisions based on that feedback from yourself. With all of that being said, I didn't want to make this too much of a depressing video. I just wanted to share the realities, and I will be giving you an update on where I'm at with my training. So like I mentioned, I'm on week 8 of the training program right now, which is a 20-week program. We're on a recovery week right now, but when we go into week 9 next week, that's when things really start to ramp up. So I'm actually really happy it's a recovery week. I have adapted this slightly because, like I said, the recovery week is actually still quite a lot of training, and I know my body and I know I need to take a little bit more of a step back in comparison to what's on this training program. And I'm doing that so that I can show up next week at my best and start ticking off the big miles with more intent and reduce the risk of injury on the way as well. So week 9 next week, for example, is a 55-minute ride with a 10-minute run afterwards, and then it's an interval swim, and then Wednesday is a 6-mile easy run. That's pretty consistent throughout the program, and in the last few weeks it goes up to 7 miles. Thursday is an interval swim plus a 50-minute easy bike. Friday is a 45-minute interval run with 8 sets of 2-minute fast efforts. Saturday is a 55-mile bike plus a 10-minute easy run. And then the Sunday is a 12-mile run plus a 2.4k swim. And then that pretty much builds up by roughly 10 to 15% on each session throughout the next few weeks. And I think there's 1 or 2 more recovery weeks in here that kind of reduce in volume and intensity so that I'm peaking for week 20, which is the full distance Ironman. Now, obviously, as I've mentioned in other videos, I am also trying to incorporate some strength training around that, and that's usually looking like 2 full body sessions a week at the moment because I only have so much capacity to adapt from these sessions, and the other restricting factor is obviously the amount of time I can commit to this. So all in all right now, and I have actually been updating this on my Instagram as well, so if you don't follow me there, click the link in the description below. It's at @DrewShawCoach. I've been updating my Ironman training stats, if you will, and last week it was something like 13 hours of training over the course of the week and about 12 sessions altogether. So obviously trying to balance that around full-time work and looking after my son and general life duties, it obviously does get quite taxing mentally and physically. So with that being said, I also wanted to share some of my top recovery tips. If you are also aspiring to do some form of endurance event mixed in with some strength training, then no matter what the distance is of the event you're doing, whether it's either a 10k, half marathon, full marathon, any distance triathlon, it's obviously very important to be focusing on what you do with your recovery outside of those training sessions. Now, one of the first things that comes to recovery is actually taking a step back and looking how much you're currently training, because one of the things that will impact how well you recover is actually how much training you're doing in the first place. There's only so many recovery protocols you can have in place until you need to actually strip the training back so that your body has a reasonable stimulus as opposed to too much stimulus that it can't actually adapt from. So in short, you basically can't out recover too much training. And this is something I always look at with the guys in my coaching program. We always look at giving them the right effective dose for them to recover but also make good progress in their training. And it's definitely something you should look at if you feel like you're constantly feeling burnt out and fatigued from your strength and endurance endeavors. But anyway, as I touched on earlier, one of the biggest things I'm focusing on during this training preparation is all around my sleep. Now, it's not just about getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Sometimes I'll get more than that. Sometimes it'll be closer to like 6.5 or 7, depending on what I've got on in the week in terms of work demands and family life. But I'm always aiming for around 8 hours. And the way I do that is to try and keep a consistent sleep schedule from 10 p.m. all the way through to 6 a.m. Now, sometimes it may change depending on the demands, like I mentioned, but I'm always trying to get to sleep at 10 and wake up at 6, and that way you're getting your body into a good circadian rhythm. Now, obviously it doesn't have to be those specific times, but if you try to get to sleep and wake up at a consistent time every day, you're essentially setting your body to be in tune with everything going on. And if you are waking up later and going to sleep later on the weekends, you're then messing with that circadian rhythm all over again. So therefore it's very difficult for your body to get into a natural groove and for you to perform to a high standard. So that's something I always keep as a standard throughout my week, whether it's a weekday and I'm working, or it's a weekend I've got time off with the family and going out in the evenings. I always try and prioritize that because I know it's going to be one of the most beneficial things for my recovery. Not to mention, I don't have much choice because the weekends are now primarily taken up with long bike rides and long runs early in the mornings. One of the other things I'm extremely conscious of right now as well is like my nutrition choices, and this is something that's actually been affecting me over the last few days. I'm aware that I've not made the best nutrition choices. Part of the reason I've been experiencing the brain fog is down to the refined sugars I've been eating. Now, one of the top tips they say to avoid brain fog is to avoid refined sugars, but coincidentally, when you're training for an Ironman and doing long distance activities, one of the things your body needs is refined sugars so you can restore the glycogen pretty quickly. So I am looking at alternatives of that, and I obviously will mention them in future videos when I find them, but it's just one of those things that, okay, if I'm on a bike or I'm about to do a run or on a run, then I need to be having gels or some form of quick release carbs that gets into my system quickly. And actually, not to go into too much detail, but after the 3 hours on the bike on Saturday, my gut was just not in a good place. So I definitely need to find a solution, or at least get my gut used to that, because obviously, again, if your gut is experiencing discomfort, that's going to affect the rest of your body in terms of inflammatory responses, so on and so forth. So regarding nutrition, one of the main things I'm looking at is just sticking to whole foods where possible. So even when it comes to carb loading and specifically meeting the calorie requirements I need to kind of maintain my body weight and composition, I'm still trying to stick to good quality foods, whole foods, and avoiding refined foods, because ultimately, yes, they might help me meet the calorie requirements I need, but they're not going to serve me in terms of my energy, my digestion, and ultimately my recovery in between my sessions. Then the third one is focusing on parasympathetic activity, which is essentially where your body goes into rest and digest mode. Now, we've essentially got two branches of the nervous system, so your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. Your sympathetic is like your fight or flight, when your body's ready to really go for it, and your parasympathetic is, like I mentioned, your rest and digest. Now obviously when we're training, we're more in that sympathetic nervous state, so that's where your body's releasing more stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and when you're recovering from your sessions, you need to do so as effectively as possible to get your body into that rest and digest mode. And one of the best ways you can get yourself into that state is, of course, your environment, because if you're in a stressful environment, it's going to be very hard for you to relax. So I always try and make a nice calm setting in the evening, especially once Theo goes to sleep. It's a lot easier to do so, and just try and chill out as much as possible by doing some form of mindful activity, whether that's reading, journaling. I'll try and limit screen time as much as possible, or even just going for a nice walk and having a nice conversation with my partner. Now, environment aside, there are certain techniques you can use to help chill yourself out a little bit more, and one of the main things I use is box breathing. So if you think of a box, it's got 4 sides. Obviously, we're matching our breathing to each side of that box. So if you said a box was 3, 3, 3, 3 each side, then you're going to match your breathing to inhale for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, exhale for 3 seconds, and then hold for 3 seconds. And by doing that, we can really calm ourselves down by following that breathing pattern. And that's actually something that Andrew Huberman recommends. If you haven't seen his channel, then definitely check it out and all his content. And it's something I use to help me get to sleep if I'm struggling to get to sleep as well, because it's such a calming method to use. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. It's probably not the video you were expecting, but it's something I wanted to share, and like I said, just be super honest about where I'm at. I know this is just a slight lull in a otherwise much bigger picture, and come 12 weeks time, I'll be very happy to obviously put myself through this. I actually had a comment from a mentor today who said, quote unquote, if you were my son, I would say you're an idiot for trying to do this, but as you're not, I've got to respect the decision that you are. And that kind of makes me feel good or bad. I know it's definitely not an easy thing to do. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do, and it's the reason why only less than 1% of the population do it. But I know that once I've done it, once I've crossed that finish line with the Ironman, I'll be a very proud man. Not to say I'm not anyway, but I'll be happy I made this sacrifice in the future. So I'm just gonna be really raw and authentic from now on. If there's something that's on my mind, I'll be sharing it. I'd rather do that and still get content out to you guys, as opposed to trying to make videos all flashy and fun to watch. I'd rather just pump out the content and share the roller coaster that I'm on, and hopefully provide some value in doing so. And I know that the simpler I make these videos, then the more frequently I can upload, and hopefully the more frequently I upload, the more value you get as a viewer, subscriber, and the more we can make progress together. So thanks very much for watching. If you did like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out my other stuff on Instagram and my podcast on Spotify, as I'm more active on those things. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't clicked that subscribe button already. Catch you on the next one.